It's Friday, June 16th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. Today on the daily chart, we end up with an inside bar with a little bit of a downside bias to it, a red bar, but we didn't take out the high or low of the previous day. We've been up a whole bunch of days in a row, so it's not surprising, at any point you're going to get consolidation kicking in, and that's kind of what happened today. If you look at the structure on the day, the 15-minute chart, and I'll get to that in more detail in a minute, right out of the gates, you had a pre-market range between the blue line. You didn't really start up above that pre-market high. You started down, and that sort of set the stage, given the fact you didn't take out the pre-market lows on that first push down for it to eventually kind of work down there. And by the time it worked down there, the day was sort of negative overall. And I'll get to that in a little, in more detail. But generally now on the weekly chart, we closed with a pretty strong green week. We broke out of this key red line level. That was a target from way back on the monthly chart. If I go back here, and then we didn't reverse there, so we continued higher. Into this week pretty strongly. And when you see that green week, even though we have a bit of a tail up here, you don't know what that means. You would think you're going to test above that high at some point next week, but it's also very possible that we get some kind of consolidation pullback within this weekly chart, kind of similar to these areas in here. Once you kind of go up for a while, you got to expect that. So we'll see what happens. And, we're going to open the week next week. I think it's a 4-day week on, let's say, Tuesday. It's possible we open and start lower right out of the gates. Now, maybe we end up with just an inside week. I'm not going to project we have a 2-down week, but that might be the start of it, and at least we'll have a reference point on the open of the week. And if it stays below that all week, maybe we can start trying to anticipate a 2-down week or an inside week. But the best signals here are going to be kind of for buys are going to be either a weekly pullback that kind of pauses and starts up, or something on the daily chart. Now that we have an inside bar here, I always look for failures with inside bars. So if we come down and get a 2-down day on Tuesday, but can't reach our target here, and then eventually get a 2 up, that's going to be a very powerful buy signal. We could fail on the upside as well. We could head up here, finally take out those, or take out the high of the green week, and then fail on, get a 2 up and then a 2 down failure out of this inside bar, and that would kind of maybe set the stage for a potential weekly pullback type of thing. So we're gonna have to go day by day, but again, until this weekly chart really has some kind of a major pullback, I'm not really going to get too biased to the downside, other than the fact that I can expect a consolidation, because the monthly chart here is still working up towards these levels until proven otherwise. We took out a key target, we didn't really reverse, so that kind of projects up to the next target, and we have a nice green month going. So a lot has to happen to turn this whole thing negative, and it'll start kind of on the weekly chart, and the weekly chart obviously will have to start on the daily chart. So if we get some kind of start down, we'll see if it just ends up an inside week, or if it maybe gets all the way down to a 2-week. But you're also anticipating something kind of holding in here and testing the highs of that week. But we'll just have to see how each day unfolds. So finally, in terms of how the day unfolded, if you were going to trade it, first of all, you're coming into the day knowing you have exhaustion risk, and it's always tricky. So you didn't get the green bar or anything close to it starting above the pre-market highs to get long and to hit the highs of yesterday. So then you're coming down on the first bar. On bar number 2, you don't really reach the pre-market lows. You come close to it, and if I would have looked for, even though that's a pretty big red bar to start, so it's a tricky red to green move, but if you're going to look for it, I would have preferred it to take out that stop to start. Or this this liquidity start, and it didn't do that. So then the next bar kind of paused. Then we went up, nothing, green here. Then we went up, started up, but then it closed just, kind of like almost looking like a shooter bar. So that's not really any kind of green that you're excited to head up there. And again, you didn't take out this liquidity, and that's what was on my mind. Anyway, then this next bar starts green. At that point, I'm kind of thinking, all right, maybe you're going to head up and take out these highs, and that's it. But right out of the gates, you kind of start lower here. And I shot a video how on the 5-minute chart, I decided to buy some puts just to, because I really felt you were going to take out this area here before even trying to head higher, given the stocks I was watching and the way this, market came down to start the session. And eventually you worked down there. I shot a video how this was a break-even trade for me today. And obviously once you got took out liquidity, then you get the green reversal here. And that did go up for an hour or so, but it didn't really, every once in a while on certain days, you can get the 2 pushes down to the midpoint. You take out some liquidity, get green, and it can come all the way back up all day long, take out those highs and everything else. In this case, we just got back up to the close of yesterday, the yellow line, this little high, and then we reversed and went lower. And that's not surprising given all the stocks I was watching that really weren't strong at all. So I didn't really expect a strong follow through day at all. And then it came down. And again, I'm not surprised at all given the last day of the week. You got some kind of push down like this to end the session. So the only thing to really consider in terms of the SPY, if you were even interested in trading it, which today was really almost a day to sit out, just given, the uptrends in play. So the trend's up, and yet your exhaustion risk, so you're not really excited to go short. It just, because the trend's up, you're not excited to go short. So anyway, it was a tough day, but the only thing, in my opinion, at least for me, was to try a short trade here. If I stuck with it, obviously it would have worked out, but I just decided to break even and kind of watch for most of the day. A lot of other stocks, were good trades. Like Netflix here was a great trade. And again, if you're going to trade these things, you want to see the weak stocks kind of start out weak below the pre-market range, and that's what Netflix did. Whereas if you look at the SPY, that kind of didn't start down below its pre-market range. It kind of, consolidated in here, and that's why that wasn't as weak. So you look for the stocks. Here's like PLTR, which I traded yesterday. That started weak below its pre-market range. So that's why this one had, a better opportunity. So same thing on the upside. You want to see it breaking above there to be buying, or bias to be buying, and below there. That's one of the filters I like to use. And, so today, it was a good day, at least for the market, to kind of not expect too much. And, that's sort of what unfolded. So we'll see what goes on into next week. Again, we start out with the inside day. I think it's a 4-day week. So we'll see how things open. We'll look for a failure out of, any kind of failure would mean you come down and then you reach your target, and then you come back through the midway point of that bar, or you start up and you come back through the midway point of that bar. There could be a failure out of here because we have exhaustion on the upside, and we also have a big uptrend. So maybe people are going to be aggressively buying on any pullback, but it could also be the start of a downtrend. So we'll just have to see how structure unfolds and everything else with the buys to the upside, and but knowing we're in a bit of a consolidation area right here. So let's just see if that becomes choppy, or if there is some maybe strong directional moves one way or the other once next week unfolds.